Welcome, everyone. We're gonna go ahead and get started here pretty soon. I'll explain kind of the format of the meeting. You're gonna have plenty of time afterwards staff will stay around, the project team will stay around, and you can go to all the poster boards. We'll be more than happy to stay around and talk to any questions you have. So, but with that, we're gonna go get started. We're gonna get started at 6, so we're a little bit late. But I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Dan Stuckey, the city engineer for Carson City Public Works. I do want to introduce some of the project team. Sierra Nevada Construction is the contractor that will be building the South Carson Complete Streets project. They're in attendance, and they're kind of the main attraction today. They're going to start talking about what the construction process is going to look like and some of the things that you can expect. We've got Dan LeBlanc with Sierra Nevada Construction, and then Emma Crossman with S&C is what they go by as well. Tom Grundy, some of you I know Tom. Project manager on this project. And then Jeff Freeman in the back, he is with the city. He is our construction manager. So once this job starts getting built, he'll be heavily involved as well. So I wanted to introduce you. Again, you'll have plenty of time afterwards to talk to any of the staff here. There we go. So as I mentioned, the format today, we're going to give about a 15 or 20 minute presentation. I'll talk a little bit about the project background and overview. I think a lot of you have probably hopefully attended some of the meetings that we've had over the last year and a half to talk more about the design progression, but I will kind of review high level of the design. Then we're going to get into the construction process and the schedule, again, what you can expect this coming year. And then one of the things we're going to end up that we think is very important is ways that you can stay connected, whether you're a business along the corridor, if you're an interested resident, if you're traveling in the corridor. We have a bunch of different tools, ways to stay connected that we want to make sure you have at your use, and we'll go over some of those. And then at the end, we'll have a general kind of question session where if you feel comfortable and you want to talk, and ask a question, you can do that. And then we'll also provide an opportunity if you want to talk specifically about your property or specifically about a certain part of the project after the general question session. You're more than welcome to stay a little after, and we'll talk with you about the specifics of the project. So a little project background, the South Carson Streets project has been even longer back than 2016 has kind of been a part of the city plan. I think most of you know that the state highway used to go through South Carson Street, and of course the opening of the bypass there. Now the Carson City owns the right of way there, and so we have an opportunity there's about half the traffic that we once saw, and so we have an opportunity to make this a complete street. And what we mean by complete streets are these projects for not only motorists but pedestrians and cyclists in a way to kind of beautify that corridor. So I'll talk a little bit more about the project when we get going. But 2016 and 2017, this is when we did our corridor study, and what that is just kind of a conceptual study coming up with ideas of what we want to do for the corridor. There was 2 big public meetings during that time. They were both heavily attended, and that was an opportunity back then for the public to provide input on kind of what they wanted to see along the corridor. And so much of what we collected back then is in the project today, and you'll see on these boards. 2018, this is important to note, but we won a big federal grant. The Tiger grant is the abbreviation for it, but it's basically a big transportation infrastructure grant from the federal government, $7.57 million. And this allowed us to do the project all the way from the south end near Appian Way all the way to the north to 5th Street, and to be able to do one continuous project. It was a very big deal for the city, one of the biggest grants we've ever gotten. These are highly competitive grants. I think we were one of 41 out of 985 applications that were awarded this. So obviously something stood out about this project, and so we were really excited about that. The project, as far as the project team and the design, really got going in September 2018. That's when we formed, kind of our consultants. We got one thing to note with this project. It's the project delivery method that we're using. It's a construction manager at risk, or CMAR process. And what that is, it's a little different than your typical project delivery where you design a project and then you bid it, and then a bunch of contractors out there, maybe have 21 days to review the project, and they submit a bid, and then a month after they're awarded the contract, they're building the project. So they've really only known the project for, a month. This is different. We hired, when we talk about September 2018, that's when we brought on Sierra Nevada Construction for the pre-construction stage, and they've been with us for about a year and a half, involved on the design progression, talking about constructability, meeting with some of the public, talking about detouring, traffic control, phasing, all of that. So we think it's a big benefit because, as we get into construction, they've kind of known what to expect for a long time. So again, very big benefit there. October 2018 to December 2019, we progressed the design from, that initial start level to the final design, which we've ended at the end of the year last year. During that time, we did walk the corridor in 2018 and tried to meet face-to-face with as many businesses as we could. But even throughout that project progression, we've had over 20 public meetings, reporting to various boards and committees, gathering feedback. We've had 2 open public meetings as far as we had a workshop in April, and then we had a general kind of kickoff meeting, basically December of 2018. So again, we've gathered some good feedback. We've talked with the bicycle community as well and some other different groups that are interested in this project. And we've gathered a lot of feedback and we're excited about what this project has become. We'll get in more into this construction here in a little bit, but basically the timeline will be February. We'll start to kind of mobilize out there, starting heavy construction beginning of March. That'll last throughout the end of the year. And then we'll probably come back and do some landscaping in the springtime to finish it up. Construction costs, a little over a $20 million project. And one thing I like to point out about this, when you talk about funding sources, there's about 7 different funds that are funding this project. But one of the things we're really proud of the city is we've able to leverage a lot of our local funding sources to, it's over 70% or about 70% funded by non-local funding sources. And so that's that Tiger grant. We also received some money from the state as far as them relinquishing their right-of-way to the city for use on this project. So about 13 million of this project is from those non-local sources. So we're happy about that. Project features, I'll just touch on some of these. Landscaping, there's a significant investment of landscaping along the corridor to, somewhat beautify that corridor. And you'll see on these plans here quite a bit of landscaping. There's a multi-use path. Further south, there's a multi-use path that was built in the Nevada Department of Transportation right-of-way. We're extending that north. It's going to run primarily along the east side of the roadway up until Stewart Street. So that's a big part of this project. It's a protected bike path, which is nice for people that, maybe aren't comfortable riding on the street. They can ride protected in this path. There's a landscape buffer along the corridor. You can see here that separates it from the roadway. So that's one of the features that we think, a lot of people will enjoy about this project. Enhanced street lighting, lots of added street lighting along this corridor, as well as ADA enhancements. We're doing a lot of curb ramp upgrades, driveway apron upgrades as well to make it ADA compliant. The roundabout, this is one of the features, significant features on this project. And, there's a lot of people that are very excited about it and a lot of people that feel a little uneasy about using roundabouts. I will encourage you, if you haven't already seen it yet, we do have some content on carsonproud.com, and I'll give you that link at the end where we have some videos out there as far as how to use a roundabout. We're trying to help educate the public. We're also going to send out this spring, probably we'll send out a flyer, kind of a brochure, kind of talking about ways to use a roundabout. So we're trying to make an effort there as far as making people feel comfortable when this roundabout is built, feel comfortable using it. So I did want to talk about that. That roundabout will be located at the intersection of Stewart and Carson Street. Illuminated pedestrian crossings, this is important. There's really, the corridor today, there's not many opportunities for pedestrians to cross the street, except at some of the signalized intersections there. So we have added some of those push button crossings where they, the blinking, flashing lights. We have 3 locations, I believe, across the corridor, across the 2.5 mile stretch. So that's a complete streets component, allowing people to cross, from the east to the west or vice versa. So that's a good feature. Enhanced business access. If you drive the corridor today, you'll notice there's a lot of raised concrete curbing and median. It kind of limits you as far as getting to one side of the street or the other. A lot of that will be removed with this project. We'll have a center turn lane for much of the length, so it'll allow kind of easier navigation and ways to visit the business, better ways to access the businesses along the corridor. Big pavement rehabilitation and reconstruction with this project. We're doing, a mill and overlay on a portion of the project, and then further north, we're doing a complete reconstruction, full depth reconstruction of the roadway. So much needed there. That roadway has taken a beating over the years, being a state highway. So we're going to put significant investment in that roadway to make it last for a while. So that's a big component. And then the last thing I want to touch on is the stormwater improvements. We've invested, there's about $3.6 million investment in stormwater infrastructure with this project along the whole corridor. I think most people know in big events, this area does have, some drainage issues there. This will alleviate some of those in those smaller events. So we're excited about that. That infrastructure has been planned for a long time, and we were able to do it with this project. So that's another great feature. We also have some sewer and water improvements much needed along that corridor. So that's a big component of the project as well. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dan LeBlanc with S&C.
Click. Which one is your Dan? That one. Is it that one? Move forward.
That's the forward, and that's a light if you want to flash.
Good evening. As Dan said, my name is Dan LeBlanc with Sierra Nevada Construction. For those that don't know too much about S&C, you've probably seen our blue and white trucks around. That's how everybody usually identifies us. They say, hey, we've seen your trucks everywhere. Well, we're excited because we get to come be part of this project team, and that's really how we look at it. Like Dan said, this is a CMAR job. We were selected by the city to come be part of this and truly be guests in the community here to come build this job. So we're excited about that. We're a mid-sized heavy civil company that has built our reputation and our name off of projects just like this. I've been with S&C for 15 years now and have specialized in roadway reconstructs, underground utilities, just like we're coming in your backyard to build. So it's something we're very comfortable with, and we're excited to do it. We're actually up in Virginia Street right now doing a similar project like this in Reno, if you've seen that. So like I said, we're ready to get going. We're excited. So hopefully you guys are as well. So Emma's going to get into some more details on the actual construction, but I'm going to give you kind of a high level here. We're looking at the project kind of in 3 zones. We'll be working in all zones, but just so you can kind of see if we're reflecting different zones and what we're talking about. But north of Stewart Street, the roundabout, kind of at the Stewart Street area, and then south of Fairview. So what are you going to see? So coming in late February, we'll come down and start mobilizing equipment, crews, start getting saw cutting, setting up BMPs, getting ready to start the storm drain and underground infrastructure, which will be the first part of the work that we'll do. We're going to call that phase 1. So what you see first, we'll say phase 1, and that's going to be the underground. That's got to go in first. So that'll set up the rest of the infrastructure improvements. We'll also be working on the frontage road, which we'll call the south of the roundabout area, and then the concrete on the west side in that area as well. And we'll be shifting traffic. You'll see traffic shifts at this time in early March to start facilitating this work. So phase 2, we'll call it, the next type of work that you'll see over the course of the project is the multi-use path, the roundabout, which will be early summer, additional concrete civil improvements. We need to get all the concrete done before we start the road work. Now you'll see 2 different types of what I'll call road work on this project. One, as Dan said, we'll call a mill and fill. The existing asphalt the majority of the structural section will stay. We'll mill off part of it and then put a new layer on top of that. The other part you'll see is a complete reconstruction of it, and it'll actually look like an earth moving operation. You'll see large excavators, trucks actually removing parts of the road and putting it back, which will be a full new structural section. That's what I'm referring to as phase 3, and that'll be the road work, landscaping, and electrical work, the finishes. So roughly construction schedule, when will this happen? Again, we're trying to get going in what we'll call the phase 1 in late February, early March. That'll happen through the midsummer timeframe. It'll overlap with what we're calling phase 2, which is the multi-use path, the beginning of the roundabout, other concrete improvements, followed by the heavier roadwork moving in July timeframe, following to the December timeframe. The 5th Street to Fairview, or 5th Street to the roundabout, we'll have complete outside of the landscaping before Nevada Day for the parade, so that's one major milestone. And then as Dan said, potentially in 2021 remaining landscaping that won't be complete. So I'm going to turn it over to Emma here to talk more about the construction and the phasing.
I get to talk about everyone's favorite subject, traffic control. So you're going to see us working on the entire project a lot of the time. The project is really extensive. We've condensed the schedule into one construction season. Like Dan said, we might have to come back and do some landscaping next spring, but we're hitting it hard. We have up to 7 crews. We have 2 subcontractors who are also going to have multiple crews. So we're going to be working in a lot of different areas at once, but we wanted to kind of give you some big bullet points of what you can expect to see in those areas. So kind of broken out into those 3 areas south of Fairview. So the blue section, that's a really wide area. And so what our plan is, our main goal is to keep traffic flow moving through this area. We know it's used a lot by the residents to get from one side of town to the other because it's not, you may not want to go hop on the freeway just to get through. You can just cut through Carson Street. So in this area, we're going to have 1 lane in each direction and also a two-way left turn in the middle. So it'll be 3 lanes. And you can turn right or left at the businesses, at the streets. So that's the goal, so that if you're turning left, you're not going to impede the traffic flow. So in that area, it's going to be at a minimum. So there will be times where we're not working in the whole stretch and you'll have regular traffic flows. But if we are working in a certain section, we're going to have at least 1 lane each direction with a 2-way left turn in the middle. For the yellow section, which is the north of Stewart section, is what we call it, that's where the road gets pretty narrow. And so in this section, we aren't able to keep the 3 lanes, so we will have to take it down to 2 lanes, 1 lane in each direction in this area. There will be times when, if we're not working, we'll be able to have it open, but for the most part, you can kind of think of 1 lane each direction, flop on one side, and then flop it over to the other side. The roundabout has its own separate traffic control, so it has its own separate slide, but we did want to touch that we are going to keep business access at all times. There are a lot of driveways into parking lots. There's a lot of side streets that go into businesses, and so we'll be doing driveways in halves, we'll be doing plates, but at all times we're going to maintain business access for everyone. So the roundabout is going to be really fun to build, and what we're doing, so originally our plan was it was going to take 16 weeks to build the roundabout because you have to do it in sections to keep traffic flowing through it. You got to do it in almost quadrants. You're moving traffic every which way. And so every time you drive through, there's a different traffic pattern. Drivers are confused. They're trying to follow the signs. They're trying to drive. People are distracted nowadays when driving. They're looking at their phones. So we met as a project team. We kind of discussed all the options and we threw out everything, every idea we had. And kind of the option that we came up with and that everyone agreed was the best was to rip the Band-Aid off and get it done as fast as possible. And so to do that, we're going to build the entire roundabout minus the leg that jogs onto Stewart Street at once. So there will be a detour in this area, and it will be for about 6 to 8 weeks. And I'll kind of give you a detour map after this. But we're going to build this area first. The northbound traffic will be able to take Stewart Street up. So that will stay open. We'll get that built, and then we'll come back once traffic's flowing in the roundabout. We'll build the last leg. We call it the Stewart leg, but the Stewart leg is about 4 weeks. So we kind of went from a 16-week duration to an 8-week duration, getting the whole roundabout built. And one of the major selling points was kind of consistent traffic flow. Drivers will know what to expect. We're not going to be changing it daily. And so they know how to navigate the corridor at this time. So the detours, when we're doing this work, are going to be really important. We're going to have the through detours are going to use Curry and Roop Street. So Curry and Roop are going to be kind of our main detours for people that are trying to get through. But then there's a lot of businesses from 5th to Stewart Street as well. So we need to make sure we maintain the business access in that area. So what we're doing is there will be two-way traffic from 5th to Stewart Street. It will only be hard closed at the Stewart Street roundabout. So if you're coming out of businesses or trying to make a right or left between 5th and Stewart, you'll still be able to go that way. And then coming up northbound, we have the Stewart leg. So that is the detour route. You can.
Go back one slide. Have you ridden Curry Street? Have you driven it?
Yeah, really. And with the
Especially,
apartments?
you come up the hill or down the hill, either way, but you have the bend there. That is narrow. Talking about Curry Street, using that, the width of that road and the condition of that road, what are you gonna do? Make traffic at 10 miles an hour, or? I don't mean to sound like a wise to you, but that's a horrible road, and with that amount of traffic on it.
Yeah, and so we can make the main detour Roop Street, and there are, you can go to the east, that would be, but I would say our detours for traffic that we want to push people would be the two streets, because we don't want to send people too far away from Carson Street in general. But yeah, I would say that the ideal path would be Roop. But I think a lot of people will also take Curry Street as well.
Are you gonna limit parking on Curry then?
We
Because there's
haven't thought
parking
that
on it
far,
now,
but yeah, we could.
Because like I said, Curry, particularly around the curve there, up to,
Yeah, I know the part exactly you're talking about.
it is just a horrible road now. And let a bicycle be on there and their insurance agent grabs his chest. So just a suggestion. Also, if you don't mind me getting back, are you going to use frontage road at all for part of your detour while you're working on South Carson?
So the frontage road, we do have work on the frontage road, but we'll work on that separately from South Carson, the work on South Carson, so we won't have to use it as a detour at all. You'll always be on Carson Street, and then the frontage road will be separate access.
I'll tell you what, if traffic backs up on South Carson, I'm dumping over onto the frontage and beating the traffic problem. You ought to keep that in mind too, because the businesses there that park and the activity about using frontage, or even use that for part of your detour when you're working on South Carson.
Yeah, no, that's not a bad idea. We can definitely look at some of those options.
Thank you.
And look at making Roop the main detour instead of Curry. So the business access is kind of one of our main topics in the forefront of our head as we're going through the construction. This is highly business populated corridor. How many of you are business owners? Or do we have some here? Yeah, so we wanted to make sure that we were always maintaining access to the businesses, and how do we do that? And we've gotten kind of a firsthand experience down on Virginia Street, where here's a little different because a lot of the businesses were not impacting your front door, but we are impacting your driveway access, and we are impacting the traffic and the flow in front of your business. So we want to make sure that's the easiest for you guys and the best for the community and everyone. So we kind of did a lot of planning into how we're going to maintain the traffic and the flows, but we're always open to suggestions, and sometimes things don't work quite like we planned them, and so you can always call us and say, hey, something's wrong, I have this idea or that idea, and we're always open to change some stuff. So we will be impacting pretty much every driveway along the corridor. Most of them do get replaced, and ADA upgrades are being made to them. So how does that work? Once we're coming up on your driveway, so we're kind of splitting it into sides of the road. So we'll be working on one side of the road, getting a section done, then coming back and working on the other side of the road. So as we're coming up the road, we're out ahead, talking to the businesses, saying, hey, we're 2 weeks out, we're coming up on your business, let's go look at your driveway, we're gonna go look at it. Some businesses have 2 driveways, some businesses have access off Curry Street, some businesses have a really tiny 1 driveway. So each business is a little bit different. We can say that we have dealt with a lot, and we are able to maintain access at all times. We can do some funky start times, we can do early start times, we can do late start times, but we will keep access. You will see some plates, so we have to replace them, so we'll be digging sections out. We'll plate it back with a road plate or a steel plate across driveways. We might have to do half at a time, depending on your driveway. Things like that, but we'll come and talk to you before that actually takes place and make sure we have a game plan, that you guys know about it, you know when it's gonna happen. And so that's kind of what you can expect to see. We'll come notify you, talk to you, but we are also always available if you have anything. Mine and Dan's card are by the door, and we're available 24/7. You know, we get calls if someone's plate shifted at night, you know, that's a 911, and so we need to get someone out there to get it moved. So feel free to call us, you know, give advice. You can yell at us, we don't mind, as long as it's not the mayor. No, so yeah, we're always open and willing, and sometimes it's just explaining the reasoning, you know, why we have to do something the way it is. But a lot of times you guys can see something that we can't as well. So it is super helpful to have that back and forth communication. So our numbers are on here, and like I said, our cards are over there as well. So feel free to grab a card and call us at any time. We will have night work. So the roundabout, so
I was
most.
Do I need to repeat the question? Please do, sir. Okay. I was wondering if there'll be any nighttime work to avoid some of these impacts on businesses that are open primarily during the day?
Yes, so the majority of the project is daytime work, but the roundabout, we are gonna have to do some double shifts and some night work. And then we'll also, depending on the business, we might do some night pours or night work. So we do have some nighttime work available to us, or the option to do it. Right now, we're planning mainly at the roundabout area will be when you'll see it the most, but it is an option at other times. Yes.
The other roundabout that we have on Fifth Street, people stop in that road as it is. They don't even know how to, in that little tiny place of Fifth Street, this is a major thoroughfare, and I didn't even know we had a problem with with traffic. You just veer to the right. I mean, I'm shocked. I didn't know you had 20 meetings. I thought this was the first. So I'm sorry. This is all totally new to me. And it's like, why are we fixing something that's not broken?
So you're not alone. There's people that are obviously that, you know, go to the roundabout that we have in town and see what you're seeing. You know, this roundabout, we've been playing a roundabout along this corridor at this location for about 15 years. Roundabouts are a proven safety measure. They're more efficient all times of the day. You know, are never stopping at a light. You know, we've put a lot of thought into this. It also serves as a transitional zone from a busier south to a downtown corridor. But as far as I do want to compare to, you know, this roundabout is designed in a way as far as signage and striping to make it easier to use for people. I think that's key in this. But roundabouts are happening everywhere in Northern Nevada. I have faith in Carson City. We will know how to use this one. It might take a little while. You know, you get into it the first time, you might be a little uneasy, but over time, I have confidence that this will be a really well-used roundabout and people will have confidence.
But we have people that don't know how to use roundabouts, and I know they've been around for years, but is there been accidents? Is that why you're putting in a roundabout? I mean, why are we starting all over with, Carson City's been this way for years, and I'm from Las Vegas. My gosh, this is nothing. This is not traffic. People think there's traffic. I mean, I don't even know why you're even doing this. I didn't know there was a problem with traffic. Yeah, Topsy, you got a major problem there. But not in front of the car auto malls and across the street where there's desert. I just don't even I don't understand. It seems like this is a lot of work, a lot of thought that's been put into it, but why?
I mean, I wish you would have gone to the 20, meetings that we had before. Again, this is something that's, we didn't just decide, yesterday to do. We've been in the process for a long time. We also are planning a future fourth leg to connect to Curry Street across that Forest Service parcel. So if you know, there's not a connection to Curry Street between Rhodes and 10th Street to the north. It's a long stretch, and what it does is it leads to a lot of cut-through traffic, which is very unsafe. So as in a future project we're in the process right now of making that fourth leg connection to allow better connectivity, people to be able to use Curry as well as Carson. So again, I hear your concerns. You're not the only one I've heard, but I also believe this will be a well-functioning roundabout and people will learn how to use it. And we are making every possible effort we can to put out outreach information to the public as well.
People stop in roundabouts. And especially when you've got a mature population here in Carson City.
I'd be happy to talk to you after this if you would like to have more
I
information.
think it's great. You're gonna, Curry. I think Curry is the road to be fixed because of all those apartments that you're gonna have over by the theater. That is going to be a major problem with traffic. And you're talking about putting everybody on Curry? Do you know the apartments, those new apartments? There's a ton of new apartments and they're building more.
Yeah,
And they're gonna be using Curry.
As far as these detours, that's happening north on Curry, not at the very south by those apartments. So I just want to explain that, just so you understand. If you don't mind, we'll be happy to answer questions afterwards. I'd like to continue the presentation. Okay, thank you.
She said I could ask the first one.
Sorry, I started it.
My fault.
No, it's good conversation, good topic. So, yep, call us anytime. We're always open. Dan and I love to talk to everyone. So some important construction dates, just kind of want to wrap it up. I swear this is my last slide. I won't talk at you anymore after this, but we're going to start early March. Like Dan said, you'll probably see us late February out there starting to get survey on the ground, starting to saw cut. You'll see some cones popping up, but early March is when we will hit the ground running. The roundabout construction right now, we are planning on a late June, early July. So that's when you can expect that. Dan will talk to you about all our communication methods, so don't worry, we'll give you plenty of notice so you guys know what's going on and when it's happening. But that's kind of big picture when we're planning on right now. 5th to Fairview completion, we're gonna have done by Nevada Day for your Nevada Day parade, and we will be attending, so make sure you guys are all there, and we'll be there with you. The total project completion will be in December of 2020, and we'll see how the winter is. If we can get all the landscape in, that'll be great. If not, we'll come back in the spring and do the remaining landscape touches, but the bulk of the project will be complete.
Just wanted to follow up on one thing that Emma said. We appreciate everybody's comments tonight. I'm looking forward to the questions afterwards because we truly are sensitive to the project. We know construction's never easy and it's never fun and it's frustrating, especially if you're a business or a resident right on the corridor. We are a different construction team. Like Dan said, this is a CMAR process. We've been involved in it. We are invested in this. We're invested in this community. So when I say we truly do want to tailor a process to a business, I'm looking forward to talking to the business owners, especially after this. If you have an access and a concern, truly come talk to Emma after this because we want to see what your concerns are and make sure we have a plan specific for your business. And it could be completely different than the neighbor next to you. So we're not just saying that. That truly is what we're envisioning for this project. So wanted to make sure we get that out. So come talk to us. Please don't leave. And then those cell phone numbers. We are truly a 24 access construction team. That is my cell phone number. That's her cell phone number. We will have other members on the ground that you'll see as we're out here, and you'll have their cell phone numbers. So we are very accessible. No one in this room or on the corridor should ever say they can't get a hold of the construction team because we truly are here. We're your partners through this. We'll do everything we can to get through this as easy, efficiently as possible. So just wanted to put that out there.
So before we open it up to more questions, I did want to, this is important to point out, we try to make a lot of different ways for people to stay connected throughout the project. Everybody likes their information differently, so I want to go over these different options. If you haven't been to carsonproud.com, that's where we host a lot of our news information, a lot of the information we push out about the project. If you haven't been in the meetings, there's a recap of every meeting that we've done since we started the project. You can watch the video, you can see how the designs progress, different illustrative maps there. So there's a lot of information there. I'd encourage you to go there and look at that. Text subscription service, this is something we rolled out. It's a popular feature. You can text Carson Proud to 31996. And what this does is it gives you text updates of when we have an update about the project. This will be particularly nice during construction because any changes we do to detours or traffic control, you would get an update. Any news, we'll try to give updates on where we are with the construction process as well. So we'll try to push out a lot of those updates through that. Social media, a lot of what we post on carsonproud.com also goes to all the different city social media platforms as well. And then one thing I do want to talk about, the construction map. So this is a feature that essentially it's a live construction map. It'll be embedded in our carsonproud.com website. And it's a map that you can go to any time of the day, and it's basically going to give you a live feed of, it's going to be a map, and it's going to show where the detours are, where work's being done, where there's closures, anything like that. So it'll be a very valuable tool, whether you're a business along the corridor or you're visiting the corridor, you can kind of get a feel for what it's going to look like before you get there. Construction hotline, so there's a lot of numbers we're giving out today, but obviously,
Have that one off. That way I don't make.
sorry, technical difficulties. Construction hotline. So you got Dan and Emma's number. That's great. Construction hotline. This is a general number. It's up there. Basically, it'll end up going to myself or Jeff Freeman, our construction manager, but it's a way that you can get a hold of us or leave a message, and we'll do our best to get back as fast as possible. I did mention the S&C contacts, and of course, my contact, my email and phone. You're always welcome to call me if there's any issues. As Emma mentioned, a lot of times, I mean, the people that are out there along the corridor using it every day can often provide some good input on, you know, what's working and what isn't. So we're always open to hearing ideas and getting your feedback. With that, we will take questions.
Whichever one.
Yeah, a couple of questions, kind of on what this young lady mentioned. When you did your transportation or traffic study, you indicated that it was about half the traffic that it currently has compared with what had happened in the past before they got the freeway done. And I'm new to Carson City, but did you take into account the growth in the amount of traffic that's going to be increasing in the next 10, 20, 30 years? And you're losing one lane here. Is there a projection of when you're going to need that lane back in your traffic study?
So this is working, okay. Yes, so when we did our traffic analysis, we looked at today's conditions, and we also looked at a 2040 scenario with growth, so the apartments that are being built down south, other developments that are in progress, potential developments that could happen along the corridor or in Douglas County or other places in Carson City that might generate, you know, traffic trips along this corridor. That was all analyzed. And it will still function well in 2040 scenario as well. So there's nothing that says in 2040 we're going to have to build back a lane.
Okay, just kind of another off-the-wall question. If you've saved money on this, could you go to that other traffic circle and make it bigger?
I'll let our transportation manager know.
This question was sort of indirectly asked earlier, so I'd like to rephrase it in a way that might make it simpler to answer. What problem exists that this project solves?
As far as the entire corridor, you know, I think the Board of Supervisors had a vision back in 2014 when we took control of our streets to provide a welcoming corridor to the people that visit Carson City. We have a complete streets program in Carson City, and what that is again, everything we do at the street level, we look at not only motorists, but we also look, like I was mentioning earlier in the presentation, at how pedestrians can move around better, how cyclists can move around better. It's an important policy that we take very serious. And so this is an opportunity to provide not only bike lanes and multi-use path in those pedestrian crossings, but still provide adequate level of to the, well, it's for the live recording. So this project will hit all aspects of that, still providing a very good level of service with motorists, which half the traffic is there now, while providing these additional benefits to the other traveling public. So there's that. There's also a way to beautify the corridor, improve street lighting. And again, this is part of the master plan that we wanted to do with these corridors. We did downtown Carson Street first. We extended down to South Carson. Our next project will be William Street. We'll be doing a corridor improvement project on William Street, and then we'll move on to North Carson in the end. So again, this is something that's been planned out for a long time, and we believe it provides a very nice benefit to the people that are traveling the corridor.
What are the dates on those?
Subsequent ones.
So what are the dates on those two future plans?
Future projects?
And
Yeah.
just by chance, any date on when the overpass is going to be built for 580 connecting?
The overpass, that's an NDOT thing, so you have to talk to them about that. I don't have anything on that. What was your other question? Oh, yes. So tentatively, probably in a year from now, we'd like to start design on the William Street project. And so we'd probably be in design for about a year. So probably three to 4 years, we'd probably start looking at constructing William Street. And then probably a couple years after that, it would be North Carson Street.
Hi. I have a question on the roundabout on a contingency plan going northbound where you guys are going one lane, with Fifth Street being a major east-west corridor and things coming up to the roundabout. It looks like you guys are trying to limit the amount of traffic coming into downtown Carson City. Is there any contingency in that roundabout to expand it if needed, going northbound on that? Because if you guys miscalculated on how much traffic's coming north, it's going to back up.
So a couple of things. The roundabout was sized for that 2040 scenario, so for future growth. So I do want to point that out. One thing I always like to point out is, downtown, as far as, used to be a state highway that went through there. And of course, with the downtown project, we narrowed lanes as well. Volumes really have stayed the same. It's not like it deterred people to not go and visit downtown. Basically, traffic volumes, you can look at them before and after the project. It's essentially stayed the same. We anticipate traffic will relatively stay the same after we do this project as well. There's also, with the roundabout, there is that connection to Stewart Street. Carson Street will turn to 25 miles per hour. I believe it's 30 miles per hour north of Stewart today. It'll go to 25 is what we're planning for after the project. It will be, there's going to be bike lanes there, wider sidewalks, so it will have more of like a downtown centric feel, I guess. But you'll also have Stewart will function just like it does today. And that'll be, I guess, maybe a little faster way, I guess, if you want to head north to William Street, getting through. But we don't anticipate, volumes decreasing or deterring people away from using that corridor. It's just going to have a little different feel.
Yeah, I was kind of interested in just the overall feel of driving through downtown Carson. We all have had that experience many, many, many times, but what do you think will be the feeling of getting through downtown or having more choices and looks like it's much more streamlined, but what do you think that overall effect will be? I'm talking about the locals, but just how would you characterize that?
As far as getting and visiting downtown to use those businesses or getting through downtown? Okay. Obviously, I think after this project and after the downtown, it's not as easy to jet through downtown anymore than it once was. I think if you talk to some of the businesses along, I don't know, but I know there's some people that are heavily involved downtown. I know many of them have felt like at least the feedback I've gotten, and maybe other people have other thing, but they don't think that as far as business, people are still coming there. It hasn't, again, deterred them to go another way. You know, they're still coming downtown and visiting businesses. In a lot of ways, it's made people wanting to go down with their family and walk around downtown and enjoy a Saturday or Sunday downtown, and rather than just pass through it. So I think there's been a lot of that effects on the downtown, and I feel that, especially north of Stewart, between Stewart and Fifth, I think you're going to have a similar feel after this project, maybe more walking around, visiting those businesses, more families extending down there. There's going to be bike lanes on both sides of the street. I think you're going to see more cyclists. Hopefully, I mean, that's the plan along the corridor. So those are the types of benefits. But as far as, this project's not for the motorist that wants to go 50 miles per hour through South Carson or 60 miles per hour through South Carson and get through town as fast as they can. If that's what you want to do, I apologize, but this is not that project. It just simply isn't, and it's by design. So, these people, there's alternative routes if you want to do that. And I think, again, we're not tailoring this project for those types of people. So hopefully that answers your question.
Do you foresee a more enjoyable kind of a journey through a pleasant place, and people would like to slow down a little bit and enjoy the scenery a little more? Do you think we'd be lowering the speed limit through the downtown to encourage more of that feel of a hometown downtown?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that does. If I'm getting your question, I mean, yeah, I think slowing down the feel, yes. I mean, there's an aesthetic, a feel with after this project. I mean, the roundabout, I know some people are not super excited, but there's going to be some nice landscaping. It's going to be a nice transitional zone. I think the city's planning to put, we're actually just applied for a grant to do, a significant like art piece in the middle of the roundabout that characterizes Carson City. Again, there's the bicycle lanes. I mean, yeah, I think it's going to have a different feel. It's going to be more inviting. I like to think about, being a state highway. I think, this is an opportunity to, I don't know if I've heard this phrase before, but kind of take our streets back and make them more, our own Carson City rather than a state highway. So.
Downtown Carson Street is backing up, sometimes 2 or 3 blocks trying to get through downtown. So I see that reduction of lanes hasn't really worked out that well. And I hope you're not thinking about reducing lanes on William Street and North Carson Street as well.
So we haven't, as far as William Street, we're very conceptual level right now. We haven't got onto lane reductions or anything like that. Is same thing with North Carson, so those decisions have not been made at this point.
Dan, obviously a lot of tourists come down from Lake Tahoe, especially during the summer months. You have a pretty unobstructed view of South Carson Street. If they see a lot of activity, a lot of construction activity, they may stay on the freeway and bypass a lot of our downtown merchants. Not downtown, I'm using that in general terms, but South Carson Street merchants. Will there be any signage advising motorists that the businesses are open, that Carson City is open for business? Don't be discouraged to make a left-hand turn off the freeway onto Carson Street.
Yeah, I can kind of take that one. So we've been doing a really big push for this on Virginia Street, and I don't know if you guys have seen any of our stuff out there, but we're really promoting the businesses, and we love to kind of do that exact same thing. I know it's a little bit different corridor. It's not quite the, storefront, small, that kind of business. It's a lot of bigger businesses, bigger parking lots, things like that, but I think we could kind of make it our own. And as far as signage, we're definitely open to options for that, and we have the availability and the capability to do things like that. We like it when you guys come to us with the ideas, but mainly right now is the business access. We have business access signs for each business, but we'd love to do some custom ones if there's ones that we think would help at the beginning of the corridor. We are open to looking at that too.
On top of that, we also we do social media. We do blitzes with certain areas, like you said, Lake Tahoe. So we'll focus on areas like that. Television, radio advertising. We've done that in the past. And what we'll also do is incentives, potential gift cards or other things to come get people down to these businesses, and we'll work with the businesses as well, and help them run, if they're having a special or if they're having an event, let us know and let us get that out to the public through all sorts of different things. I know not everybody uses social media, but maybe listen to radio, maybe you watch your TV, hopefully do something to get information, and we will utilize those information sources to get that to potential customers.
Don't forget the internet.
And internet, what's that?
It's one of these fangled things that just came out of nowhere.
Newspaper too.
Have any of you been on a bicycle and bicycled from, say, Clearview down towards this roundabout? I have too, and there is no problem. In fact, there's nobody even on a sidewalk.
Yes, I have ridden a bicycle many, many miles all around Carson Street. For those of you who are bike riders, I've done edible pedal lots of times and been all throughout Carson. And I would agree that I don't feel there's a problem, but there are many levels of bike riders. And so safe for one person may not exactly be safe for another person. So those engineering decisions are taken into account for all types of people. So, we got to engineer to everyone, not just those cyclists that are comfortable being on the street riding next to vehicles with, right in the same lane.
Actually,
on those sidewalks, so why not use them?
I actually hit a bicyclist on the sidewalk as I was coming out of a driveway on South Carson. So I am all for anything you can do to make it safer for them along that road.
I have a question for the attendees. Is anyone here because of an advert they saw on carsonnow.org that said "Save South Carson Street"? I got my $500 worth. Okay, going back to bicycles, the multi-use path, which my prediction that it's basically going to go unused, but if I'm wrong and people do actually use it, is it a good idea for 20, 25 mile per hour cyclists to share the same piece of pavement with 3 mile an hour pedestrians?
One thing about the multi-use path is it's 12 feet wide, so there's plenty of room. Some of these multi-use paths you see are much narrower, and so it doesn't leave a lot of room for cyclists going both ways and pedestrians there. This one's 12 feet, which is very large. So I don't anticipate there's going to be problems. I think there's going to be plenty of room for both pedestrians and cyclists to use it.
And I think just to add to that, being an avid cyclist too, I think you'll see the what I would call hardcore cyclists will tend to use the road already. There's going to be a bike lane on the other side. So if you're trying to motor through Carson at 20 miles an hour on your bike, I don't think you're going to choose the bike path just because I feel like it's going to be more of a family. You're going to have your casual bike riders going down the street. So I think that could always be an option for you as well.
Yeah, on traffic control devices, like I say, I'm kind of new to Carson. I've only been here a few years, but on the downtown renovation, there were no left turn traffic control lights put in. Are we going to have left turn traffic control lights in all this construction here?
Yes, we will.
Okay, good.
Why wasn't a traffic light designed at Appian Way that I understand is proposed?
So this project, a lot of that building has happened after this project started to progress. That is something that we're working on now, possibly is adding, in the future. We did, as we advanced this project, knowing, as we got to about the 50% level, knowing that was maybe going to be a reality in the future, we did plan as well as we could. So when that signal, if it does happen in the future, we don't have to tear up a bunch of the pavement or improvements that we're putting in. we have basically like accommodated it to be able to add a future traffic signal in the future. We can do some boring and stuff underneath the pavement as well.
For a traffic signal?
The traffic signal is not going in with this project.
Is the infrastructure going in for the traffic signal?
We're accommodating the roadway as well as we can right now. So if a traffic signal goes there or if it goes at Snyder, it hasn't been decided where that would happen yet. Wherever that would go, we believe that we're not going to have to tear up a bunch of improvements that we've already done, new pavement, concrete work, to go in and add a traffic signal. But no signal is going in with this project.
First of all, I want to compliment you. It looks like it's going to really look nice. So thank you, and thank you for making Carson City a more welcoming place to come into for tourists or for our families when they come to visit. I do have a question about the pedestrian lighting. I think you've got 3 sets of places where there will be crosswalks. Will all 3 of those be illuminated like they are in front of the legislature, or will that be different?
They will be pretty much identical to the setup that they have at the legislature.
So the one by, I still call it the old Super Burrito, but the one right across from the mall, that will be lit?
Yes.
Okay, and then the one further down by, further south, that will also be lit, because we have had 3 pedestrian fatalities in that stretch of road, so.
Yes, that'll be lit.
Okay, thank you. And one other thing, how many jobs total do we anticipate from this project?
So that's a great question. Thank you. This is kind of exciting. At the height of it, we could have up to 65 to 70 employees out here. So that's on our end, as well as whatever, Carson testing and inspection, but because we'll have up to 7 to 8 crews, like Emma said. So it's great for the economy and for the local businessmen and women.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm sorry. So we are Sierra Nevada Constructions. We're a local company. We're based out of Sparks, Nevada. Started in 1989. So yes, we are local. Our employees all live in the Reno, Sparks, Carson area. So yeah, they're all excited. I'm telling you, we've when we broke news that we agreed in principle on this job, our employees are very excited, and a lot of them are from here. Everybody that's from the Carson area obviously wants to come down here and build it because they're very passionate about this community, and they're excited about this job and what it's going to do for the area they grew up in. So
we're probably going to end. Again, we're going to be around for as long as people want to talk about the project, so please come and talk to us more if you would like. But with that, we'll close this out. Thanks everyone for coming. We always like to see good turnouts, so we really appreciate it. Thank you.